Hi everyone, and welcome to News in Depth. I'm Adam Lowenstein. Here's what we have for you today. We're going to delve into the complicated questions surrounding wrongful convictions. 3 men have been freed from prison now after being sent there based in part on the testimony of a now discredited expert witness, someone who's been used over and over again by local prosecutors. Investigators are now asking what this may mean for the many others still in prison because of this man's testimony. We'll also take you on a trip back in time to show you what life was like in Brevard County 40 years ago when your friends and neighbors were working to launch men to the moon. And we'll share yet another video tip to help you get ready for a tropical storm or hurricane. But we're going to start today in Palm Bay, where Brevard Public Schools is set to open its latest and most state-of-the-art high school. Heritage High is a marvel of technology, convenience, and versatility. At a cost of more than $60 million, the new high school comprises a dozen buildings over 65 acres at the west end of Malabar Road. This week, Principal John Tuttle agreed to take us and you on a comprehensive tour of what's in store for students, teachers, and parents. Grab your milk money, kids. We're going to school.
Welcome to Brevard County's newest high school, Heritage High School, which will open with 9th and 10th graders August the 10th. We've already got over 900 students registered, and they're all excited and trying to come out and take a look at the school and get a sneak preview. So I'm happy today to give Florida Today a sneak preview of Heritage High School. It has 12 buildings actually. It's set on 65 acres, and it's located on the west end of Malabar Road. They broke dirt in November 18 months ago and have been on schedule, and we've got it complete, and we're just about ready to close out the 1st of July. Just a little overview from the inside of the school, looking from the courtyard. The administration building is right here behind me, and then to the north of that is the media center, and then on up past is our sports medicine academy and the gymnasium. On out behind, way over top the building right there, you see the lights on the football field, and we have the baseball field and the softball field and the Roberto Clemente Walker Sports Complex. And as you come on around, you have 3 classroom buildings. You see building 6 right here, and then this walkway is taking us into building 5 and then building 4. Those are classroom buildings set up with 21st century classrooms and state-of-the-art science labs that I'm going to take you up to also. As you move on around this panoramic inside view, you've got down on this end is the cafeteria and also our auto mechanics, auto service technology lab. And then you come on around this way, the guidance suite is right here on this corner. All the guidance offices, and then this building right here is the music building, and we'll show you that theater part in a few minutes. This is the main entrance, the main student entrance to Heritage High School between the cafeteria and the auditorium. And the auditorium is where our dedication ceremony this Thursday night, the 25th, is going to start at 6 o'clock. That's going to be the first chance and the first look for parents, students, and the community to get a look at this fabulous new high school in person. This is the inside of the auditorium, which is a fabulous facility. Attached to it on the back side of the stage is the music room, the piano lab, and the chorus room, along with dressing rooms, and actually a construction lab for constructing sets for plays. The auditorium seats over 800 people, and I'm hoping that for the dedication on Thursday night that we fill it up. This is the band room here at Heritage, and it's a fabulous facility, as are all of our rooms at Heritage. But one unique thing about this room is that it is totally soundproof. It has actually acoustical block right here. It's got slots in it, and it absorbs the sound, and you can actually have the band playing full speed as loud as they can, and it will not be heard outside of this room. We're in the cafeteria right now, and as you see, it's set up with 7 different serving lines with different choices for students that are provided by Brevard County Food Services. You can get a salad, you can get burritos and tacos, and of course the favorite, the pizza that the students like, all served in the different, in the different areas. This is also one of our career and technical programs that have our students and our parents and our community very excited about. This is our automotive service technology program. And as you see, this lab is set up with lifts for cars, and we'll be doing some same kind of car maintenance and same kind of things that they do at Pep Boys and auto zones and all that. When students graduate from here, they're going to have like the same certifications. They're going to have ASE certification, some NEFTEC certification in different areas. So yeah, I mean, it's like if you do this over in Orlando, there's an auto mechanic school over there called UTI. It costs $30,000 a year. And at Heritage, free. We also have state-of-the-art science classrooms. And the way we've got our buildings divided up is the upstairs of every building has either 6 or 4 science labs that are all like in a pod and connected. On the outside, we have rooms where we have our English teachers and our math teachers. And what I've done is I've taken the top floors of Building 4 and Building 6, and I've utilized that to cluster or group together my teachers that are in the Cambridge program, which is like an international baccalaureate diploma program. And actually, this is one of the Cambridge science classrooms. And down in Building 6, what we've done is we've put our Sports Medicine Academy kids down there and our teachers down on that end. This is a Sports Medicine Academy, the room. As you see, this is the big room that's going to have a cardio series, a strength training series, rehab stations in this room itself, along with the whirlpool and massage tables and those kinds of things. Attached to it is a classroom that'll have all your computers with your adaptations and everything that students need as they're learning about sports medicine. Students in this program are going to be students that are interested in being in the medical profession, all the way from a medical doctor, all the way from emergency response personnel. This is our gymnasium, which seats about 1,500 fans. And as you see, we have Heritage on the end of the floor. We have the big Heritage H out in the middle that we kind of copied off of the Duke floor, where they have the D, we have the H out there. And as you see on the floor, we have our Panther. I got to pick the colors for the school, so I picked a blue, white with black trim. But the students picked the school mascot. As we went around to different schools and went through the registration process, we allowed them to pick the mascot, and they overwhelmingly chose the Panther. This is the entrance to the Roberto Clemente, actually the Roberto Clemente Walker Sports Complex. This is the ticket booth right here, and the signage will be up on the top of the ticket booth there. It hasn't been installed yet, but that's where it will be. We are the first, we're happy and proud to be the first school in Brevard County to honor someone of Hispanic heritage by naming our complex after Roberto Clemente. We do have a complete sports complex. We have in our football field, we have 4,000 seat stadium. We have a baseball field back here to the north of us and our softball field. All of our sports facilities are completely lighted, and when the kids get here on the first day, they will get the whole package. That's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed your tour of Heritage. It is a fabulous school. It's going to have the facility. It's going to have the programs. We got a great community. I know that our students and our parents are excited about opening, and I, as your principal, am very, very excited about opening Heritage. We also hope that everyone comes out on Thursday night, June the 25th at 6 o'clock for our dedication ceremony and your preview, your tour of your brand new Heritage High School.
That's quite a facility. Thanks to Principal Tuttle for taking time out to show us around. Now to some hard questions facing State Attorney Norm Wolfinger. Pressure is mounting for the prosecutor's office to take a fresh look at more cases where people were convicted and sent to prison based in part on the testimony of an expert witness who has now been discredited in a string of high-profile cases. John Preston claimed his dogs could track scents that were years old. His testimony in the early 1980s helped convict dozens in Brevard County, including Juan Ramos, Wilton Dedge, and William Dillon. You may recognize those names because all three were released from prison after being exonerated or having the charges dropped. And the story is far from over. Our investigative reporters are digging into public records, and here's what we found so far.
Juan Ramos, Wilton Dedge, William Dillon. All three Brevard County men were sent to prison for heinous crimes. All three were also convicted in part because of the testimony of a fraudulent dog handler, John Preston. Preston claimed his dogs could do miraculous things. His dogs could track an 8.5-year-old scent. His dogs could stay on a scent right through traffic in crowded places. His dogs could even track something underwater. Preston was called in to assist and sometimes to testify in about 60 Brevard County cases in between 1981 and 1984. 84 was when Judge Gilbert Goshorn simply put his dogs to a test, which they failed. Even after a federal report had put Preston under serious scrutiny and accused him of possibly being a fraud, Brevard County prosecutors still used him. Juan Ramos, originally sentenced to die, was acquitted after a second trial. William Dillon and Wilton Dedge were released with the help of the Innocence Project of Florida, a nonprofit organization that uses DNA evidence to help exonerate the wrongly incarcerated.
John Preston, let's just say who he was first. He is a guy who had dogs, and he would run around and go to law enforcement agencies, specifically in Brevard County, and offer his services to take his dog and track scents to certain areas, or track scents to distinguish items of evidence from each other. So he tracked courses and also did what he called scent detection lineups. Unfortunately, what we found out about this dog is that, and the handler, is that they're completely fraudulent. That dogs can't do what Mr. Preston's dog was doing. And I think what's important to understand about this is that if the dog couldn't do what he was doing, the question becomes, how was he always getting law enforcement suspect, Mr. Dillon in this case? And the only answer is that he's being fed information about the case that allowed him to understand the facts of the case, so he could then manufacture the evidence in order to get the conviction. That's precisely what happened in this case. And we think that it's happened to as little as 60 and as high as maybe 150 or 200 cases that Mr. Preston testified in Florida.
William Dillon was released in December after the state dropped charges in his case. He spent 27 years in prison for the murder of James Dvorak.
And the dog itself was big. And it kind of spooked me a little bit. I was kind of spooked by it because I didn't expect a dog to be popping his head in the door. And he comes in, and I, spooked by the dog, I start to get up into the back of the chair because I don't know what's going on. And he says, well, how does it feel to be tracked by harassed too? I said, tracked for what? He said, you'll see.
It would be a few years before Preston was exposed as a fraud, although some were already questioning whether his dog could really accomplish what he claimed. One of those was former Judge Stan Wolfman, who presided over the Dillon case.
The part that troubled me, I recall this, was the dog tracking evidence. It was kind of flimsy. They had this dog going across A1A, tracking across A1A with all the traffic that had gone by there. And I just kind of shook my head internally on that evidence.
A statement issued by the state attorney's office in response to questions related to Preston and any possible investigation simply said this: defendants have had rights in Florida to challenge their convictions through a well-established post-conviction process.
State Attorney Wolfinger and the governor's office have both rejected the call for a review of cases. Meanwhile, the Innocence Project of Florida is starting to look into the case of Gary Bennett. He also was convicted using the same strategy employed to prosecute Ramos, Dedge, and Dillon. That included the use of jailhouse snitches and the testimony of John Preston. Stay tuned. Now, a chance to turn back the clock. 4 decades ago, Brevard County wasn't yet officially known as the Space Coast, yet the community was overrun with engineers, astronauts, and reporters as the United States tried to launch men to the moon. We wanted to give you a look at what it was like to be here during those heady days, when the attention of the world was focused on places like Titusville, Cape Canaveral, and Cocoa Beach. Reporter and videographer Chris Kreidler scoured our archives for old photos and videos, and she visited with dozens of local people who had stories to tell about life here in 1969. Let's take a look.
It was an early morning launch, and the town was just jam-packed. And you've probably seen the video, a helicopter flying down the Indian River, and it shows the front of like J.C. Penney's, and there's just a throng of people. That's where I was standing, is right there, because we would always close, 15 or 20 minutes before the launch, and we would go out in the parking lot and watch the launch.
In '69, I lived in Pompano Beach. We got up to Titusville about 5 in the morning, and it was still dark, and we were on the 405 causeway, and the people were starting to line up, and first hundreds, and it just seemed like thousands, and there was just nowhere to even stand.
And those of us that were not part of the launch team that day were advised to stay home. Up to that point in time, I had been in the control room for all the previous Apollo launches. And I was looking forward to seeing a launch from outside.
The countdown rolled toward a 9:32 a.m. launch.
We put, the kid, the stroller in the car, a couple of snacks, for the baby, and headed off. When we got halfway to the river and had to park the car in the side streets of Titusville because nothing was moving. It was just absolute gridlock. So, get the kid in the stroller, we walked the rest of the way. US 1 at that time was a 4-lane highway through Titusville downtown with a little median in it. There was traffic on all 4 lanes, stopped, and people weren't honking their horns or trying to get through. They were sitting on the hood to the top of the car. By now it's 15 minutes before the launch, and they're just everybody. And there's pup tents pitched in the median of US 1.
I got this bright idea. I said, "Hey guys, let's paddle out to the rocket on our boards." Back in those days, boards were big. So we got on our boards, we started knee paddling out. Sounded like helicopters flying. So that got closer and closer, and pretty soon they were over our heads. And then they started circling us and warning us to get out of the area. It's a forbidden space area. We had to leave.
As you might imagine, Chris heard a lot of stories in the course of her research, more than we can fit in today's segment. So Florida Today has produced a 30-minute special about life in Brevard in the months leading up to the first moon landing. That show will air several times in the coming days and weeks here on WBCC. And lastly today, your handy-dandy video hurricane tip. Remember, hurricane season started June 1st, and there's no time like the present to make sure you're prepared. In today's installment, we'll tell you what should be on your hurricane supply list.
Food and water should be the first thing on your hurricane supply list. Here are some other basic items you might want to keep on hand. Clean containers for drinking water. Plan on 1 gallon a day per person for drinking and sanitization. Gallon-sized freezer bags for making ice. Bleach. A flashlight for each member of the family with extra batteries. A battery-powered radio or television. Disposable eating utensils. A hand-operated can opener. Mosquito repellent. Extra garbage bags. And toiletries and soap.
You can find that video and more tips and how-to information in our hurricane guide only at floridatoday.com. Well, that's our show this week, everybody. We'll be back next Tuesday with a special show focused on education and hosted by reporter Megan Downs. She'll have an in-depth interview with departing school superintendent Richard DePatri and look back at the successes and challenges of his 9-year career. In the meantime, you can get the latest news from Brevard County right here every day at 11:30 a.m. and again at 4:30 p.m. For Today in Brevard, I'm Adam Lowenstein. Enjoy the rest of your week.